Welcome to Carmen Cooks. Today we're going to talk about anemia and the multiple causes of anemia, and we're going to make my white bean stew. And we're focusing on a series of pregnancy and lactation, specifically recipes that go with my series Nourishing Generations. Today we have a recipe from the Nourishing Kitchen, which is basic recipes and pantry prep for all your pregnancy and lactation needs. They're simple basic recipes that help you manage your lifestyle, and most recipes take about 10 minutes to make, and they're repeatable recipes that you should be making on a regular basis to get all your nutrients. Today we're going to talk about a nutrition theme, anemia. Anemia is very common in pregnancy and lactation, but we tend to think of anemia erroneously as only due to iron deficiency. And we're going to talk more today about the other causes of anemia, how you can prevent them, and how this recipe, where we have a white bean stew, can help to prevent iron deficiency. We're going to start with washing our lacinato kale in filtered water. I have my beautiful kale here. I make a special trip Saturday morning, even though I would much rather stay home on Saturday morning than go out with all the crowds and the people hanging out and going out, and I know it's a fun thing to do, but I'm just there to get my vegetables, like in and out. You can try to be friends with me when I'm on my way looking cute, ready for a video, but I've got some cooking and pantry organizing to do, because I do that all on Saturday and then get it done, even though Saturday morning I love to just stay home and relax and hang out, but I need to make sure that we're fed properly for the week, and I'm fed properly for the week. I've got my beautiful lacinato kale. This is from a local farm. I go especially to get it every Saturday morning, and I'm going to stick it in my water with a little bit of vinegar and baking soda to make sure to clean it. Not because I'm worried about the pesticides from the farm, but we live in a world where pesticides travel, the air is dirty, roads are dirty, and pollution is in the land. For example, a lot of forever chemicals, they're just in the land. Dioxins, they're outlawed now, but we all have tons of dioxins in our body. How do dioxins get in our body? From food. Dioxins particularly come from the soil level, so they tend to build up around the level of the soil, and then they go into the plants, or it's on the outside of the plants, but mostly they're concentrated in animal foods. So if you have a lot of health problems, going vegan can be healthy, not because it's so much lack of animal products, but because those animal products are putting dioxins in your body. The next thing we're going to do is get our white beans. These are a white bean, and the recipe in the Nourishing Kitchen calls for 1.5 cups. We're going to soak all of these, it's half a kilo, and then I love to do that because then I can recycle it. Our recipe calls for 1.5 cups dried white beans. 1 3/4 cup of dried white navy beans. And white beans, I love them for their beautiful mild flavor. They're so palatable, they're so nourishing, but they're also especially high in iron. So they're one of my favorite nutrients to give pregnant and lactating women, besides lentils, which are the other high iron beans. We're gonna have these, and we're gonna soak these overnight, drain the water, and then start cooking them in fresh water. I'll share with you a fun little trick I have. Sometimes if I forget to drain the beans and I think I have nothing to eat, I have nothing to make, I'm thinking about dinner a few hours ahead of time, I'll actually put baking soda and a little bit of vinegar in the water and let it soak 2 hours, and then drain that water, and that helps speed up the soaking process. Not the best, it doesn't get out as many phytates, but it's a little trick you can use. So you're going to take these, soak them, drain them. If they're not organic, you might need several rinses. You can also wash really dirty beans if your water looks really dirty. I also like to wash those with a little bit of vinegar and baking soda. And then you're going to put your beans in water and cook it for 8 to 24 hours. 24 if you're in a crock pot, but 3 hours is sufficient if you're working on a good stovetop. You want to go horseback riding, you got your pot here. You want to go to yoga class, leave your pot on. I like to use these clay pots because not only are they non-toxic, I'm hoping to sell these on my website and Amazon eventually. These are beautiful. This is a cheaper version, but I have some beautiful versions that I plan to sell. And these keep the liquid in, and I love that because I accidentally left this when on a long trek the other day, and I came back and all my water, and I had a whole kilo of lentils in here and just about an inch of water, and I could not believe it. I hadn't burned my bean, I hadn't lost too much water, it was perfect. So these pots really help keep the liquid in and retain the moisture inside, and they're also non-toxic. They don't have lead in them, they don't have Teflon. They can cook on low heat and the pot retains the heat. So let's get our beans started. This recipe in Nourishing Kitchen is white navy beans and kale soup, and it utilizes dill, navy beans, and it doesn't use mushrooms. Today I'm going to use mushrooms because I'm going to talk about anemia, and I'm doing a version of the soup pretty much exactly the same, except I am adding in mushrooms, and I'm going to use sage because I found this beautiful sage. I was craving it. I felt like my body needed sage. Sage is a nervine. It's very calming. It's very soothing. I kept fingering the dill and thinking, oh, I want dill. And then I got the sage because I've been thinking about sage all week. And then I got home and looked at my recipe. I thought, oh, it has dill. I should have gotten the dill. But I bought the sage because that's what my body wanted. Even though I was thinking I should get the dill too. But c'est la vie. And the mushrooms are going to provide our riboflavin. And riboflavin is very important in preventing anemia, and along with a number of other nutrients. Everyone tends to think of iron as the nutrient that's responsible for causing anemia. Oh, I'm anemic, I need to eat more iron, I need to eat more red meat. Well, in developed countries, only about 20% of the cases of anemia from quotes I've seen are due to iron deficiency anemia, and the rest of the anemia cases are due to other nutrients. Now your reference is going to vary. If you want to check out my references, you can invest in my book, Nourishing Generations. It's a vitamin and mineral reference manual for pregnancy and lactation. And there I cover all the roles of the vitamins and the roles of the minerals, as well as a few unclassified chapters. It's got some table lists. It covers supplementation in terms of dosage, everything from how the nutrient goes into the breast milk, if it depends on diet, how it gets to your baby, if the mom sees a deficiency first in cases of deficiency or the baby. That can vary depending upon the type of nutrient. It covers this chapter on anemia, has a whole chapter on anemia, and it covers the other nutrients because even though under each nutrient I discuss that the nutrient can be a causative of anemia, I felt it was such an important topic and so overlooked that I needed to put it in a full chapter, a short chapter. So each chapter is very accessible. It's not a full, biochemistry textbook, right? It's something where if you're a physician, or if you're a midwife, or if you're a doula, or if you're an educated mother, you can pick it up, you can flip to the section of that nutrient, and you can say, oh, this nutrient does this. It has 2 or 3 sentences, what it does during pregnancy, what it does during normally, what happens in cases of deficiency, interactions with other nutrients, and then it covers your RDAs, which is your recommended daily now allowances, and it also covers some things to help the reader be more informed, such as where did this RDA come from? Was this based on research from pregnant women or lactating women, or was it based on research of men? I'm not going to use this lion's mane mushroom. I'm going to save this because lion's mane is excellent for restoring the brain. And I've read some papers how it helps BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, which in the cases of anxiety and stress disorders and PTSD, it can be really useful. And it was very expensive. I think it was like $4 or $5 for this one mushroom, but I'm going to save this one all for mommy, but we're going to use the rest of these beautiful mushrooms. We're which are quite dirty, and I might get another water and wash these a little bit more. This dish is so simple and easy that I almost have nothing to do. I talked to you in this video, and the mushrooms, we're just taking our time washing them and talking and discussing, but this is one of those dishes. Once your beans are cooked, it takes about 5 minutes to assemble, and that's what I love. And then you've got food that's there for days. You have other dishes, and all you have to do is reheat it, because trust me, we cannot be in the kitchen all day, every day, and it's be surprising how much even the most simple Western or other cultures' foods take to make, including the cleanup. And so I like to really simplify it. Iron is not the only factor in anemia, as I previously stated. There are other nutrients that are key for making red blood cells. Anemia simply means, bad blood cells, or poor red blood cell formation. And you can have nutrients such as B12, vitamin A, riboflavin, vitamin E, vitamin D, and zinc. 7 other nutrients also contribute to red blood cell formation. And so what are these nutrients? Let's talk about that now. Firstly, we have folate. And folate is the construction crew. Right? You have to have folate because you have to have the building blocks, just like you're building a house. You have to have bricks. You have to have the material to build both DNA for the red blood cells and methylation of the DNA for red blood cells production. And you need that through folate. Without folate, you can't function. Now, folate needs to be activated, and it's not very activated until it has enough riboflavin. Riboflavin is part of flavin coenzymes, and this is like the technicians that are responsible for energy metabolism. These are so beautiful. I think I just want to leave big, beautiful chunks of these, and we're going to set these aside and cook them all up, saute them, and put them on top of our dish. Because this is a dish we're aiming to improve our DNA synthesis and our metabolism. Especially good if you're about to start menstruating, or of course if you're pregnant. Now, you have the technician, you have to activate it, so you'll still have DNA synthesis without riboflavin, but it's just going to be a little bit slower. It's not going to be as fast, things are kind of going to go wrong. You've got to have the riboflavin activating the folate, and folate activation is very important. And also, if you're taking a folate supplement, you need to be careful, because you could have the doctor misdiagnosed pernicious anemia if you're taking a folate supplement or eating really high levels of folate and not having enough B12. It's because B12 is also required. B12 is your architect. You've got to have someone making up the plans for how that's going to happen, and B12 directs a lot of the DNA synthesis, and it works in conjunction with folate to make sure that you're making all your red blood cells. I have got this beautiful mushroom. I don't know what it's called, but it looks cool. Though it still seems quite dirty. I'll get it a little clean. B12 is the architect and gives up the blueprints. Now, if you don't have the blueprints, you can still have red blood cell synthesis, especially if you have a high folate intake, but this can lead to, like if you don't have the right design, a weird shaped house. Same with not enough B12, not enough of the architect, you're gonna have weird shaped, big, giant, floppy, lumpy red blood cells, and this is called megaloblastic anemia. And a lot of times, your doctor can misdiagnose pernicious anemia due to B12 if you don't have enough B12, but you have lots of folate. And this usually happens in the case of, for example, a vegan who's taking a folic acid supplement but not getting enough B12. Maybe you're taking a B12 supplement, but you have to remember that B12 is very poorly absorbed in supplement form. And all these things and these details can be found in my publication, Nourishing Generations, and discrete tables that explains it all, lays it all out, and provides the references for this information. And my information is based on more recent science rather than science that's 50 years old or repeated science. For example, a lot of intake levels are determined from, goodness, I need to be taller than this counter here. On, like, for example, calcium. Calcium recommendations are taken from science from the last calcium recommendations in 2010. And I lay out where all the recommendations come from and the publication dates if you're interested as a medical professional to look through these and verify the information and just see that I am getting the information from both the American Dietetic Association that recommends the RDA as well as most recent peer-reviewed science. I love this garlic. This is beautiful. Open up my throat a little bit. Ooh, spicy. So now, while iron is the core of hemoglobin synthesis, and you have to have the iron, that's what physically carries around the oxygen, you also need vitamin A. Vitamin A regulates iron transport and release from the liver. Let's put these in some beautiful olive oil that I bought from a ranch. I'm a little disappointed in it because I tasted it and it did not taste like extra virgin, but I thoroughly quizzed them. I'm the most annoying shopper. I'm like, is that vitamin? Is that from your ranch? Yeah, it is not extra virgin. I'm not sure if it's cold pressed, but I asked if that's from your ranch. Y'all have the machinery to make that. I'm really surprised. I try to get conversation about it, but I probably just come off as aggressive, but I'm not aggressive. I'm just asking logical questions. But most people don't know enough to even ask logical questions, so apparently when we ask logical questions, it's rude, my God. But I got home and tasted, and I was really disappointed because I thought, $15 for this bottle, that's about average. Organic olive oil, I like to buy local. But regardless, this is what we have. At least it's from a ranch. Matches. Phosphoros, please. Add some olive oil in there, beautiful. These squash blossoms are in season, and I thought this would be a wonderful source of vitamin A. Squash blossoms are really lovely, sweet, and gently sautéed on the top. It's going to be put on the top of this dish. We're also going to add sauerkraut, sheep's milk yogurt, which is our source of B12. Not a lot. You could also add eggs. It's not a high B12 dish. You'd be surprised you don't need much B12. And you could have 2 or 3 eggs in a day, get all your B12. Eat 2 servings of meat a week, get all your B12, depending upon your needs. Let's imagine a situation where we have lots of iron stored in our warehouse, such as in the case of the body, most of your iron is stored in your liver and it's also stored in your spleen. And when it's in your liver or spleen, it has to be released when the body needs it. In order for it to be released, it has to have certain mechanisms to do this. Ferroportin, ferro means iron, port, like open, ferroportin regulates the release of this. Now vitamin A regulates ferroportin, the synthesis and the action of ferroportin. I'm going to do all of these because squash blossoms are very high in vitamin A and they help fight cancer, but they don't last long, not even more than a day. Vitamin A also helps regulate transferrin. So vitamin A is kind of like the warehouse manager. You could have all your stuff in the warehouse, but unless the manager's there to get you in and out, you're not going to get in. These are cool. And vitamin A is very important in that regards. Vitamin D is very important. It's a bit of a master regulator, and it works as a hormone, which makes it very different from other vitamins and minerals in the body because it has to have hormonal actions, and a lot of times it works on receptor locations. It is very important for global functioning of the body. In regards to red blood cell production, it helps modulate erythropoietin, and red blood cells are made in the bone marrow. Vitamin D is our project supervisor, so it's help regulating how much hemoglobin is produced and how many red blood cells are produced by the cell. Let's grab our kale. Our beans have been cooking for an hour. Our beans are also a good source of zinc. In zinc, about 1 cup has 2.5 milligrams of zinc, which is significant. That's about 20% of a regular person's daily needs. And zinc and iron are both in the red beans. And zinc is like your assistant foreman. Kind of helps regulate vitamin D. If you don't have enough zinc, well, things are still going to happen, but they're going to be slowed down a little bit. It's kind of like that guy around there saying, hey, you know, this needs to happen, and this needs to happen, and this needs to happen, organizing things a little bit. I've got our beautiful sage here that today I'm going to put a few leaves into our, sage is a very strong herb, so you don't want to use a lot. I'm going to put 3 leaves into my dish there. You can use more if you like, but should I put more? I'm going to put like about 5 leaves. When you use dill, you want to use a whole handful, about half a cup of chopped dill. And so zinc that we've got in our beans here helps regulate hemoglobin production, red blood cell production, DNA synthesis. It's involved in different aspects. So even though zinc is not directly affecting hemoglobin production, it's kind of indirect along with vitamin D. These 2 nutrients, the research is still out a little bit on how significant their role is in affecting anemia and if it's causing anemia, but if you're lacking in these nutrients, you're going to need more of the other nutrients to make things up. And so I'm going to add that in there. I'm going to add our kale into our beans. I'm putting in 4 stems of lacinato kale, which I chopped up and I added in there. The squash blossoms, I'm going to lightly saute them separately in olive oil, and our olive oil in this dish is a source of vitamin E, which brings us to the last nutrient, but it's a very important nutrient and often overlooked and needed in very, very, very high levels during lactation, which is vitamin E. We can add our olive oil here, and then add our squash blossoms and lightly fry them on the stove. Our beans and kale are done. The kale is cooked for 5 minutes so far on a medium-high heat. I'm going to add plenty of salt to that. Sodium is very important for volume regulation and your body. 1 teaspoon of salt in our pot. Turn on the squash blossoms. Take this. I'm going to show you how I serve this. I have some beautiful sheep's yogurt. I'm going to scoop the beans out, and we're going to add the beautiful squash blossoms that have vitamin A, and our olive oil has vitamin E. Vitamin E is very important for your antioxidant status and for protecting the outer membrane of the red blood cells. Without vitamin E, you simply are not going to protect those membranes as well, and that can cause your red blood cells to break down and be poorly formed. And that's why vitamin E is needed for the prevention of anemia, because it regulates the cell membrane and the cell membrane formation. Our original recipe adds avocado. You can add avocado if you like. Today I'm thinking I'm just going to have enough of these squash blossoms on here. Put them on there like that. Add our mushrooms. Also, the squash blossoms and the mushrooms are not necessary for this recipe to be nourishing and just as delicious. But we're adding them today as a variation. You see how you can add whatever you have on hand. You think, oh, I need some mushrooms. I'm craving mushrooms. You probably do. I read a paper the other day how commissural fungal in your body, like just means fungus that grows along within your body. Not the bad fungus like the yeast, not that stuff, but the kind of fungus, we all have fungus, and fungi, we're just touching the tip of the pen in regards to all its roles that it has in the body and learning how important fungi and bacteria are. And I was just reading some stuff about different fungi and how they play a role in Crohn's disease and IBS, which I'm totally willing to help you with if you're not pregnant or lactating and you need help with something like that. I have the experience and knowledge to do that. I'm gonna add a piece of avocado in there, and then we add some of this beautiful sheep's milk. I like sheep's milk or A2 dairy in place of sour cream. Everyone wants something creamy and fatty. You don't need to eat a whole thing if you're sensitive to dairy. If you're in your 4th trimester, you should probably hold off on the dairy. And if you do only have sheep's dairy or goat dairy, which are more biocompatible with breast milk, in the first volume of my book, Staying Fed, which is a cooking manual for pregnancy and lactation, I give a lot of background science information, including information on dairy and what dairy is appropriate during pregnancy and lactation, and just in general for us as humans to be consumed. If you want to see more of that, you can check out that book. My publications are on Amazon. You see how beautiful this recipe is. And here we're going to have a delicious dinner full of iron, zinc from the beans, riboflavin from the mushrooms and kale. Vitamin A is also in kale, vitamin A in very high levels in the squash blossom, sauerkraut to improve our gut fermentation when we digest everything, and when we absorb and digest things better, we have better absorption of nutrients and higher levels of nutrients in our body, help regulate your microbiome. And the sheep's yogurt has a little bit of B12. If you need more, you can add an egg on top of this. And you see, I hardly did any work. Mostly I was sitting here talking. This is a meal you could execute in 5 minutes from top to bottom, including maybe 10 if you do the mushrooms and the squash blossoms. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you learned something. If you vibe, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, don't subscribe. And I hope to see you next time. Si me haces un favor, ven aquí y empuja con tu mano, con tu dedo, empuja mi cara.
¿Su cara?
Empuja mi cara, ya, toca mi cara, sí. Sí, está bien, tócalo, sí. Perfecto, sí, va.
Ya.
Es para focusar, ya está
¿Otra?
bien. No,
¿Otra?
está hecho.
Ya.
Sí, sí, sabe, tiene. Gracias. So I was thinking about ferroportin.